Joe Biden is hiring Gen Z influencers to try to do like rah Biden type stuff. Well, here we have one of them that I want to show you. This is Harry Sisson. And he says, Gen Z won't sit back and watch as the Republican Party tries to destroy our country. So this is the kind of person that the White House has reached out to like throw them a lifeline in the new media world, because they need to like AstroTurf support because they just don't have the grassroots support right now. Compare and contrast this with Marianne Williamson, who's blown up on TikTok. That says a lot, right? It says a lot that you need to like suck up to these people. And by the way, they even floated, we'll build you your own briefing room in the White House. Oh, Jesus Christ. So they have to play the tit for tat game. Like this is the way Washington works, right? It's the tit for tat game. It's the I scratch your back, you scratch mine. None of it's like organic. It's all AstroTurfed. And it shows how gross the system is. Well, anyway, let's listen. I haven't seen this video yet. I'm watching it for the first time with you guys, but I've been told it is mega cringe, as the kids would say. Let's watch.
What the Republican Party doesn't understand about Gen Z is we don't like you. You claim you want to appeal to Gen Z, but you call us stupid, you say we're dumb, you say we're indoctrinated. I promise it's a losing strategy. And Gen Z is watching the Republican Party extremely closely as they destroy our environment, take rights away from women, do nothing about kids being shot in schools. And if they think they can give the middle finger to our generation and get away with it, they're sorely mistaken. What the Republican Party doesn't understand.
I don't want to go too hard on the kid. You know, there was a time when I was Harry myself, young, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, little spring chicken Kyle, who was so against George W. Bush, all for good reasons, that when Obama came in, it's like you had super high hopes at the beginning. And I remember doing videos where I'm like, it's been one day of the Obama administration, and he's done more than George W. Bush has done in 8 years in office. And so I don't want to be too hard on the kid. He's going to grow, he's going to evolve, he's going to change, he's going to learn and all that stuff. But look, what would I call this? I'd call this like surface level, entry level political talk. That's what this is, right? Did you know that like Republicans are really bad and then Democrats are really good? And if I'm trying to break through to this dude, I would tell him in a very straightforward way, you're right about the Republicans, the elected Republicans being really bad part, but the Democrats are like the tiniest bit better, but nowhere near where they need to be, right? Like if you're really trying to explain politics to this person, does he have any idea about money in politics? Does he have any idea about the corruption of both political parties? Does he have any idea that the Democratic Party has also brought into the neoliberal framework that was birthed by Ronald Reagan and the Republican Party? So in other words, we used to have a Democratic Party that fought for unions, fought for broad universal programs like New Deal style programs, universal health care, higher wages, free college. You know, look at the economic bill of rights from FDR. And then eventually we got a Democratic Party that was like, what if we did a half measure on everything instead and left everybody out there to struggle in this dog-eat-dog, late-stage capitalist world? So, I don't want to be too hard on the dude. Yes, this is cringe. Some of the stuff they say there is true, but if this guy or these two kids actually care, I would tell them to look into Marianne Williamson. Like just learn about somebody who really is fighting to try to make things better. Learn about somebody who's against the corruption. Learn about somebody who wants to end the wars and rebuild our infrastructure and give everybody health care and give everybody higher wages and bring about unions and paid family leave, all these things. The Democrats pay lip service to some of those things and hardly ever deliver. And I don't know, just this sycophantic rah-rah cheerleading. Did you know Republicans are really bad, bro? It's like, yeah, I got it. The elected Republicans are TFG. There's no doubt about that. But to simp for Joe Biden is not the answer. My final data point, and you guys have heard me make this point 1,000 times before, but when FDR was president, at one point he held 80% of the House, Democrats did, and 80% of the Senate. And he won 4 presidential elections. Compare that to Joe Biden. Only 26% of the country wants to see him run again. 70% says don't run again. And even when you get like good Democratic wins in the election, it's always like, look at that. They won 50%.
And that's despite the propaganda he did for him.
And so there's a reason why we don't get these crushing margins anymore. And the reason is the Democrats do not deliver in the way that they need to in order to really be the party of the working people.
The Gen Z guy and the Gen Z propagandists who are now going after Dr. Cornel West and his supporters, which shows that they are very, very scared. And the reason is because there are polls that show that 10% of Americans, there was one recently I saw our sister Sabby highlight this poll where 10% of the American people are like, we're looking for someone else to vote for. Like, and they just had other already. And then there's this large chunk, like 20% plus, that's undecided as well. So this is a giant momentum to crush the two-party duopoly. So the Gen Z influencers and the people like Vosh, here comes them. Because as I said before, the establishment's seen the younger generations become more radicalized, become more resistant to two-party propaganda. So they have people like Vosh, Hassan Piker, and a lot of these Gen Z TikTokers that they're trying to do their best to sheep herd them back in the party. But the interesting thing and the good news is, because I want you guys to know, it's not diss on Gen Z at all, because the only people who they are fooling are liberal boomers. Like,
yeah,
they get roasted by their own generation. Like, if you look at Gen Z, Generation for Change, anyone retweeting and liking their posts are liberal boomers. Like, hey, look at these kids. Look at these one of the good ones. And meanwhile, everyone in Gen Z and everyone our age, I'm a younger millennial, roasting these motherfuckers. But go ahead, CJ. That's mine.
No, it's very cringe, and you know, just like everything, you guys and everybody else was on these guys way months before I was, and I'm just now literally, Nick,
I saw
yesterday.
Yeah.
Like we covered them before, but I literally only saw the stuff that was in that segment. I haven't seen nothing else until now. Until I see the exchange that Bree has with them.
I haven't seen it.
Then I go and look at his page. It is every single post is cringe. Every single post is
I told you.
Democratic Party. I was just like, this is amazing. Then I look at videos. I go on YouTube, and it's tons of footage of just people making fun of these people. And then I found this video too. But why I wanted to play this one, Nick, was this was unmasking for Harry, whatever his name is, Harry Cezanne, but also for Kyle Kulinski. And I heard you make a comment or say something when he said something in particular. Did you? And this is one thing in this video. If you notice, Joe Biden, when it comes to Marianne Williamson, he has no problem talking about how Joe Biden is terrible and the Democratic Party is terrible. But then when it comes to talking about Cornel West, the Democratic Party is way better than the GOP. Yep. And you noticed it here. 3 months, just 3 months ago, Nick, he's saying that the Democratic Party is a smidget, or let me get the exact phrasing he said, is a tiny bit better. How is a tiny bit and way better the same thing 3 months later? Just showing you the professional managerial class, the Bernie Sanders industrial complex, the Sam Cedars, the Cenk Uygurs, the right here, the Crystal Balls and the Kyle Balls, aka Kyle Kulinski's. They're just here saying whatever, man, that brings eyes to the video so they can get paid. They don't care. This is about, Nick, this is just, it's like a war. Look at what they're doing like war, and they're the United States. What is the United States doing? They want to continue the war. They don't want to stop the war. They want to continue this grift. They don't really want to have a person reach the promised land like Cornel West win. Then what are they going to do, Nick? If Cornel West brings socialism, I'm being fantasy. I'm living a fantasy. Cornel West gets elected and he's going to bring socialism. What the fuck is the Bernie Sanders industrial complex going to do for a living? What are they going to do, Nick? They didn't create Jacobin. They didn't took over DSA. You know how much money they're grifting off of this? Millions and millions and millions of dollars. They do not want the change that they're claiming, because if we reach the promised land, they're out of work.
Yeah, that's why our presence has been very inconvenient for them, because we've been debunking their narratives. For a very long time, these professional managerial class people have been giving the left bad advice, and Kyle Kulinski and Crystal Ball have most recently spread the nonsense about if you like Dr. Cornel West, don't vote for him if you live in a swing state, because somehow the results of the election between two capitalist imperialist parties is supposed to be somehow our concern. Like people like Kyle, they've been purposely giving the left bad advice. And now with Dr. Cornel West, they have a very tricky job to do now, where they got to pretend that they still down with Dr. Cornel West, they're still down with what we're trying to do, while at the same time undermining it at every turn. So this is something that I watched countless third-party videos. I've seen many people talk about third parties, and they always leave this out, especially the people who pretend that voting for third party is a waste of your vote. I will make the argument that if you vote for someone and nothing materially changed in your life, that was a waste of your vote. It's obvious, right, CJ? You would think.
Obvious
Well, look at
to
this.
me.
And I want to make very important points when I talk about this here, because we talk about how third-party electoralism is just a tool to use to engage in the real 85 to 99% of politics, which is community building, which RBN is doing. Honestly, forming militias, forming your own governments, which I think we need to be focusing on as well. Living in a late-state capitalist society, building revolutionary discipline, and building outside socialist parties as well. But it's important to get a third party in our system to 5% because you get federal funding, and when you get to 15%, this is when they used to talk about this. Now they don't talk about it anymore, CJ. Why 15 is the magic number for third-party presidential candidates, Gary Johnson and Joe Stein, who's not running, but you can fill in the blank with the current prospects of third parties. Now, as I mentioned before, are they going to allow us on the debate stage, CJ? Are we naive enough to believe that? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But what does it mean for a movement to have a party that gets federal funding at 5% and have 15% support? We never seen that. An engaged movement that is engaged in outside direct action, mutual aid, community building, and has a direct goal of finding empire and improving the material needs of the people. Having a third party that have the structure of doing that. That is what these people are advocating against. They want 1 foot in the Democratic Party, 1 foot out. How does that make sense for the movement we are trying to build? How does the suggestion that you vote in a swing state for the Democratic Party help our goal to get 5% federal funding when they acknowledge that building a third party is hard, CJ? They tell us all the time, building a third party is impossible. You can't do it. Oh my God, it's going to be so hard. But at the same time, they tell us this extremely hard, impossible task that we have. We got to divide our support and attention to it, CJ. How does that make sense?